Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for episode 3 of Tensei Shitara Slime Datta again. And out of the 3 episodes so far, this one might be my favorite. This really reinforced how creative I thought the show was, and there were so many moments in it that I actually legitimately laughed really hard at. Some that I were kinda shocked by and surprised by how cool and good they were. But in general, this was just a really good episode of anime. But I'll start from the beginning so I don't forget anything or leave anything out, hopefully. But starting off, I was just still thinking how adorable the Gabuchins and the main character Rimuru the slime, how cute they all were. And coming in quickly, the plants that he ate and turned into potions came into play, using them to heal the wounded goblins pretty instantly, really. So then we have the dire wolves and their hype man speech, which was an interesting scene in and of itself, and we see the attack moving in from their perspective as they run into the defenses established by Rimuru and his goblins. So the thread skill proving itself to be OP kinda useful really early on. Like, even at high levels, I feel like that skill is something that's like crazy useful. Like, you could even have the toughest of enemies, if you're as tough as they are, use that steel thread. If they don't see it, even the toughest of enemies would get all chopped up. Like, that ability seems really OP at any level of combat. But the animation for all this fighting, and just generally the animation was really good, but for all this fighting it was great. And then the beheading of the head of the direwolves was, again, they weren't afraid to show the blood, which I think was good. I think it's good when get you a series that can do both. When a series can handle things like that without being like needless or edgy, or dumb with it, you know? When they can use things like that in a realistic sense, but not so over the top and so much of an edgelord fashion that you just roll your eyes at it. So yeah, just fucking beheads him. I was like, I was so hyped. I was like, oh my god, Rimuru is an absolute beast. So Rimuru gains thought communication, which seems really useful to me. I love that when Rimuru uses the menacing howl, it's Rimuru's voice actor just yelling, and it's so adorable. It's so cute. Just the cutest thing ever. The voice actor choice for Rimuru was perfect, brilliant. So then Rimuru essentially becomes the god of the wolves too. Then he names all of them, and I absolutely loved everything. All the comedic bits were so good. But one thing, there was something that doesn't make any sense. He's like, so, oh yeah, so what was your son that died's name? Oh, he was Rieger. Okay, so you're Riegerdo. And so it's like, wait, so he did have a name then. You monsters don't normally have names, but he did have a name then. So that was one little bit of, not necessarily plot hole, because he could have gotten a name somewhere, and that's why he was like the strongest fighter or whatever. But I was just like, you just said that none of you have names, and then you ask what you called him, and he had a name, basically. But either way. Let's see, what happened after that? Oh, I loved all of them naming him, and he named one of them Gabuchi, and I was like, oh my god, Gabuchi, it's so close to the Gabuchin. Then he names the one wolf Ranga, which is, again, awesome. I love Ranga so much, but we'll get more into that as the episode goes on. So, he enters a 3-day sleep mode from using up too many magicules. Everything during that was cute and funny when all the goblins were taking care of him. So then he wakes up and Rigard is a friggin' Bara boy. Rigard is like, I know everybody is kind of, I don't know, for the most part rightfully complaining about how bad Goblin Slayer was, but it feels like in this series people like, oh no, Daddy Goblin, please have me. Yeah, looking at Rigard, I know so many people that would be exactly into that. But either way, so, giving them names causes evolutions within them. The goblins become, well, the male ones become hobgoblins, female ones become goblinas, which is, I have never heard of that term, but that's not the most creative name. So, Ranga showing up and his tail just causing hurricanes. Ranga is the best character. I freaking love Ranga so much. So they're now renamed Tempest Wolves. And I love how when he's explaining it, we're the Tempest Wolves now. And Rimuru's just like, good for you. The response was so good. All the comedic beats this episode were so, so good. He establishes 3 rules for them for now, other than having already told them to pair up and live in pairs, which this is going to be a very, what's the word I'm looking for here? A very obscure reference. But when he started pairing up the dire wolves and the goblins, I was like, oh no, he's turning him into those annoying units from Battle for Wesnoth. Those ones that ride around with the goblins from the Northerners that ride around on the wolves holding torches. Those annoying ones. So yeah, very obscure reference there. But that's what it made me think of. So he gives them 3 rules for now. Don't attack humans, don't fight each other, and don't belittle other races. Which actually make a ton of sense, because like he said, getting along benefits everyone. That's just simple logic that's always existed. Getting along benefits people. But other than that, if you do make trouble for humans, they have a lot of numbers and could just come try to kill you. And even with Rimuru, they might not be able to handle all that. And in addition to that, if you look down on these weaker races or whatever of monster, and then those weaker races of monster have some sort of evolution like you've just had, they can come back and then in turn demolish you. So it's better to just get along with everyone instead of A, not getting along with them and not getting the benefit of getting along with them, and B, not getting along with them, which in turn could lead to them attacking you, which also isn't good. Yeah. Also, I love that collecting food is working out pretty well, but they suck at building and making clothes. So we learn about the dwarves from Dworgen, and Rimuru sets out with a group to go there. And I guess that's about it. Some thoughts as a whole in general. The animation was so, so good. The story, I will say, is amazing because it's so creative. I will say that it's good in and of itself, but the part that makes me like it most is that it's so creative. I've seen a lot of isekai, I've seen a lot of fantasy shows, but I've not seen a show where instead of just going around slaying monsters, he's like building the monsters up into this united community under him. So it's just so creative and so different. It's a really good story, and I'm so interested in it and glued to it because it's something I've not seen before. And it's really well-rounded in a way where it's not like, oh, this is creative, but the story's kind of and the animation maybe not that good. No, the animation is great, it's really creative, and the story is good. So it's well-rounded, and it doesn't have some aspect to it that I'm like, not so great. And in addition, it's something like, one of my biggest things that I said was really bad about Goblin Slayer, and I'm not going to sit here and shit on Goblin Slayer, it's not what I do with my reviews, but one of the biggest things I didn't like about it was that I watched it, and I was like, unless, like, exclude all the rape stuff, so you can not say, oh, you just didn't like it because of that. No, plenty of other series I've watched has things like that. But the reason I didn't like it is, like, I have seen that story a bunch of times, and I've seen it done a lot less poorly. In fact, I've seen it done very, very well. Pretty much a very similar story, pretty much the same point they're trying to get across, was done by Haitogensu no Grimgar, which is one of probably the best anime I've ever seen, and it does it so much better, like an incredible amount better. Where with this, I feel like it's a setting that, again, like the same thing, it's a setting that I've seen a bunch before, but they're doing stuff completely new with it that I haven't seen. So as far as creativity goes, it's among the top for isekai fantasy type series, anime or otherwise. And as far as quality goes, it's definitely above average. In fact, maybe even pretty far above average, considering some of the less good ones that I've seen. So yeah, it's just very good and very creative. It has both going for it. And another thing, I love the characters so far. I really, really like all the goblins. I hope we learn more about them as individual characters and get to learn more about some of them. I know we're going to move on eventually. We've got to get to all this other stuff from the opening. But I do hope the goblins play at least some minor role in the future, even if they don't stay directly important the whole time. And I hope we get to learn more about individual ones of them as characters too, because I think that can only benefit the story. But I love what we got so far with, what was it, Ranga. Ranga was so good. We didn't learn too much about many of the goblins themselves individually, though. So I'd like to see more of that. And of course, Rimuru and Verudora, who of course we're probably not going to see for a bit since he's still within Rimuru. Both of them are amazing, and I love them as characters. And another thing to like about this, everything is just so cute. I love how adorable this all is. So yeah, either way, I would give this a 9.5, I don't even know, 9.5 Goblin communities out of 10, because I really, really liked it. Not just the quality, but most of the reason the score that is that high is because in addition to quality, it has such a creative nature about the entire thing. And I will say, I didn't mention it here, but I mentioned it in the previous 2 reviews, so I'll throw it in again. The stuff with his great sage power and how it explains things and how it's visually represented on screen, I really like that. So yeah, that's it for this review. Like if you did, and my reviews in the coming weeks might be up a little earlier than this one's up. I don't know. This one's still going to be up Monday afternoon. I'm expecting them to be up Monday afternoons. I'm just running a little bit behind today. So for future reviews, it might be up even a few hours earlier than it is today. But that's it. So either way, thank you so much for watching. Like if you did like the video. Comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode, what you thought of my thoughts on it. Thank you for the first 2 reviews. The response on them has been really, really amazing. So thank you for all the positivity there. Subscribe for more. Slime Datta again, as well as Zombieland Saga and Tawaru Majutsu no Index 3. I'm reviewing both of those as far as anime goes this season, but we also have things like webcomics and light novels and manga reactions and reviews for all those kinds of things and read-throughs and stuff. We have a lot on the channel and general discussions for Series 2, so if you want to have any part of that, sub if you want, and follow on Twitter, and I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel, or I can talk to you there. And if you want to talk to me or more of us about this series or any of those other series, or even some that I don't cover on the channel, just ask for a link to the Discord server and I'll give you one. We talk about whatever there, basically. So yeah, join up if you want to talk to me and other people who enjoy the channel. So that is it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.